Can you introduce yourself? Um,
Okay, so I'm Donovan Warren. I'm a psychology major with a minor in criminal justice. I'm a second year from PG County, Maryland.
okay, okay, and so how was it? I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
Like, how was it growing up in Maryland?
I had my experience isn't really unique. I'm pretty, if normal
Mhm.
was the word, or I wouldn't say as far as like middle class
Mhm.
goes, the middle class life, yeah.
Okay, kind of suburban
Yeah,
lifestyle.
like suburban, but I'm a military brat, so we were broke for quite a while.
Okay.
Until like my dad retired in 2011.
Oh, okay.
So we had so they got their stuff together, bought a home together, but they still worked hard for what they got.
Of course. Yeah. So that's
I
interesting.
Yeah.
Where is that located in Maryland? Like compared to like Baltimore or
de-
something?
Yeah, definitely. No, but
It's
not
far from
Baltimore.
Okay.
It is Baltimore. PG County is a mostly black and
Uh-huh.
like Hispanics.
Okay.
So, but it's
That's
a lot
really
of
cool.
black people who are successful.
Okay,
Who are
that's
successful.
really great.
Yeah. So,
And is it like by the water or where is it?
no, like woods.
Woods?
Yeah,
Okay.
Woods. He picked my father and my mother. They picked like a very secluded.
Oh, that's
very
cool.
secluded spot because
I like that.
they moved there in about 2000.
Uh-huh.
So there were no other houses. They were just building up the community.
Oh,
and
wow.
Because they just moved because they were stationed in New York.
Yeah.
Got married and they wanted a spot to live together in.
Uh-huh.
And they found that house, but that was the first house that the community built.
Okay.
So,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the very first house.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah, so
That is really nice.
Yes.
And so did you like growing up there then?
yeah, as far as the area, yeah, I didn't have no problems, no.
Do you feel like it was it boring for you sometimes a little?
No,
bit, or
not. I didn't really like as a kid. I didn't really care
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have problems until like I went to school because I went to school in pretty much like it wasn't far from my
Mhm.
house at all, but there are a lot of people from different backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
and I struggled trying to communicate. I was like a chubby kid. I had a lisp.
Oh, okay.
I had a gap. I
Oh.
got bullied all the time, beat up.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah,
horrible.
so I didn't have problems until I went to school, and then I'm like, wow, I didn't really have any.
So
good
why does that?
experiences.
Why do you think that happens in the world like today? I think that's something really important to bring up, and I mean, I think it's a bad thing. And I've met, we don't have kids, but
Yeah.
I mean, like I've met people who have like said like it's just too much. You can bring
Yeah.
my kid to school because I would rather do homeschooling
Yeah,
because
I
it's so
understand.
bad now.
Yeah, I understand, but honestly, looking back at it, whether it's a good or bad thing,
Mhm.
it made me stronger.
It made you
in a
stronger,
way,
okay.
Which is a weird thing. Which is
Yeah.
a weird thing because like it's like as a kid, in the moment it's pretty traumatic. Like it stays with you.
Yes.
Which is why it kind of like it irritates me when people say oh, you're 30 and you're still worrying about stuff in middle school. Yes. Yes, because that it depending on what it is. Some people can't conceptualize even. I can't because I wouldn't do that.
Right.
I wouldn't do that.
Right,
I didn't.
right,
I didn't-
right.
I wouldn't do that to you or
Right, right.
anybody else for no reason.
Right, why do people
can't-
do that?
Yeah, I can't conceptualize the thought process of jumping the kid in the bathroom. I
Right.
can't imagine that.
Right,
I
right.
just can't imagine myself in a
Right.
situation where I would want to do that to somebody that
Right.
you don't socialize with, you don't talk to them, you don't talk
Right.
to nobody. I just can't conceptualize
Right.
that. Now people say like oh well stuff happens at home. Maybe they have a need to need to be over others, which I understand that to a certain extent. But what that got to do with that kid?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I
feel
don't
like-
agree. It's not a pass.
Yeah.
It is not a pass.
I
right?
just feel like if
I totally agree
there's
with
a
you.
certain way to I just feel like there's a certain way to go about that without hurting everybody else you come across. And
Do you think that those kids? I mean, this is such an important issue This is what you're bringing up is such an important issue, and I think that it also brings back. I mean, I think it also reflects on American society and the ugly side of American society, and it's something I really don't like. And but I do think it exists in other societies in different forms.
Yeah.
So because I saw it in China happening to people in different ways. Like I remember one time my wife and I were walking down the street and we saw a Chinese girl like who was young and everything, crying and everything. And then we started thinking like, what led her to that? And I bet it was bullying, you know? So, and I think probably because like for some people especially when they're really young too, like if they make it the whole world, then that becomes a real problem. Because if you make that the world, and then on social media these people are bullying you, it can be really mean, and people can just be mean overall. I think, and like I think it's because it could be because like, and we can't figure that out. But it's interesting. You were a psychology major, so I think that kind of segues into all of that. Like, why did you go into psychology? Did that have something to do with also what you were talking about, experiences growing up and having to deal with sometimes bullying and things like that?
I had a very, because regardless of, I had a very, like, as far as childhood, I didn't really have problems, especially like with, at least with family. Like outside of that house, it was pretty miserable, but inside it was pretty good.
Pretty good.
Until I would probably say 7th grade. Like probably in the 7th grade, beginning of 8th grade, because family started becoming very dysfunctional, and in my mind, like as a kid, like we see everything, but we don't really understand everything. Like,
this is really interesting. Like, I mean, obviously this is getting personal, but you know, I came from a very dysfunctional family. I'm not gonna lie about it. Totally dysfunctional, divorce. You know, kids were messed up. When we grew up, you know, like I'm finally talking a lot more to my sister. You know, and I'm like 52 years old. And like, you know, why would that be happening? But you know, but I decided like because it was so messed up. And people are just surviving from that. You see what I mean? So I can't blame my little sister because the family was so messed up. And so I think we all tried, you know, to deal with it in our own ways. But I feel like it's just sad that part about about America too. And then like it's sad that the world and other places too. I mean, they have sometimes some things are a little more together in terms of like community. But America feels like coming back here from China. I mean, it felt like everything was planned for me in China for my wife, for me and my wife. And then when we came back here, it was like all of a sudden, boom. You got to handle. And we even had this. We had to live with my, you know, my mother for 2 weeks, and she's used to living alone, and that was not good with her. I mean, she loves us and everything, but you can't be in her house, right? Exactly. But we didn't have anything, so it was like, then came here to Hampton and everything, so that's a long story, but I think that's like, it's hard to go through all those different things. And so when you said when 7th grade came along, then family had some issues as well?
Yeah, family had some issues. I became eventually, like, all the anger that I didn't get out, because I started playing football at around 9, so that was kind of like started becoming like an outlet for me. But eventually, it wasn't enough to an extent. So I kind of went, especially when I got to 9th grade, just grades low.
Oh, okay. And that's hard with the environment when people start slacking off and other things. I think it's really important to keep your mind sharp and try to reach your full potential wherever you are in life. And sometimes it's hard because socially or like people around you might not always be motivated. But I think as I get older, I start thinking like, you know, what if I live my life and I put a little more effort into everything I do? even if other people aren't or I'm not, instead of getting into the habit.
Yeah.
Not that you have to do everything,
Yeah,
but
right.
thinking about that, and it's hard when you're growing up because if your parents are going through things, it's hard because you might not have been able to process all of those
Right.
things. So then it's like you're probably trying to process those things, but your parents couldn't process everything because they're going
right.
through it.
Yeah.
And so then you're going through high school, and so what was it like going through? What year are you right now?
I'm a sophomore.
You're a sophomore. So what was it like making the transition to Hampton University?
Well, funny enough, the story how I got here is funny because I was supposed to go to FAMU,
Mm-hmm.
but or I wanted to go to FAMU bad,
Mm-hmm.
And then
And where is that? I mean,
for Florida A&M, it's in
okay, yes.
yeah,
Yeah, I
Florida
know
A&M, it's in
Okay.
Tallahassee, Florida.
Yes.
Right.
But okay, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how would you feel about going to Florida? In
I'm-
the way that Florida seems now. I mean,
very true. But
Mhm.
because Ron DeSantis completely just
Oh,
ran that
horrible,
place in the
horrible.
ground.
horrible disgrace to,
yeah.
and I will be political. An Italian
Just-
American who doesn't even know he doesn't even know that he's a minority. That's the craziest thing. He thinks he doesn't realize that, and that there's a lot of people like that. Yeah, he's horrible.
Yeah, and it was at the time when I was making the college decisions, or when I was making the decision to go to college, I don't think he was running it into you could see the direction it was going in,
Mm-hmm.
but nobody really thought how far he would go until it actually happened, and they're like, Florida,
that's horrible.
Yeah. So then,
I mean, like my I guess that's my niece. Like she, as a white girl, growing up in Ithaca, which is a pretty white area and everything, but it's pretty liberal, right? And so she goes to Florida because she had this idea of Florida, Tampa would be nice and everything. But then what she hated about it as a white girl is she complained to my sister. She said, "There's only these white brats."
Yeah.
Excuse the language.
Yeah.
I mean, even as a white person, and
Yeah.
she's like, "How?" She's like, "I can't stand this." She's like, "These are entitled people," and it may not be true with all of them, but she felt like it was a toxic environment. She said, "I need to go back," and it's ironic because Ithaca is a kind of white privileged area. A little, I mean, there are different people, but she wanted more diversity.
Yeah.
She could not, she felt suffocated in that, and I just feel like this also goes back to the African American experience. I was wondering, you want to talk about that at all?
Well, the thing, that's the thing. I've grown up around Black people and Hispanic. I've never, to this day, I've never met a white girl my age.
Okay.
So I can't really, because I don't go out. I don't.
Okay, so you don't meet a lot of people that are from that ethnicity.
At least not, because in the spaces I'm in, I'm football, wrestling, track, and PG County is already a black
county.
A black.
So you
area.
just
the
grew
DMV
up
is black anyway. The DMV as a whole.
Right.
But especially especially in PG County,
mm-hmm.
you don't run into white people like that.
White people.
The only white people are the teachers at my school, or teachers and or administrators.
And the funny thing is, I'm more used to in America being around the Black community. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the time only with my wife or if I see my mother or something like that, but otherwise I'm more around the Black community, so I'm really comfortable being around the Black community as well. Yeah. So there's a lot of things that I just feel like I'm just used to it,
Yeah, exactly.
So that's hard to explain. So I understand how would you explain that? Yeah. But I mean do you feel do you feel like, well, how did you feel like with the Trump years, and how do you feel like with all the things that are happening in America, or just like how do you make sense of all this mess? Like,
I remember when Trump got elected,
mm-hmm.
and I was in 6th grade. Everybody's like, "Oh, we're doomed!"
Yeah.
That's what was pushed, that Trump was really like a terrible candidate for president, which he was.
He was, yeah.
Let's get this straight. He definitely was. Okay, but me in 6th grade, I didn't pay attention to politics.
No.
Okay.
I think that's a lot of people now. A lot of people, I think we do live almost in like a post-political era.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that? Because a lot of young people say to me too, like I've been interviewing people from around the world.
Yeah.
And a lot of them say like, I'm not interested in politics,
yeah.
and even religion. They'll say like, I don't want to talk a lot about religion because I'm more into spirituality.
Yeah.
I'm not into politics or like arguing about religion or politics or things like that. They don't want to do that.
And the only reason I knew about politics and what was going on is because I had older parents. My mother currently is 61. My dad is 55.
Right.
I'm from South Carolina. My dad's from Michigan. Mm-hmm. So my mother, being from South Carolina, she has more like she experienced, because she was around with civil rights movement,
with the racism and everything.
In South Carolina.
Yeah, South Carolina sounds bad. We lived in Lawrenceville, Virginia, which was a community that was before it was kind of pretty segregated. But I taught at the HBCU there. Yeah. And a very sad story is that the HBCU closed down, and I felt like that was a sad chapter in my life to see the HBCU close down, because I believe, even though there was corruption within the HBCU, there which was a problem. Yeah. But people came in and said they were going to turn it around, and it turned it in the wrong direction. Yeah. But I mean, like, it was giving opportunities for people, and then the community was changing to be more majority black. Right. And so. But maybe historically there was like that racism and those other things. But so what do you think about like America as it goes ahead towards the future? Where do you think like it's headed? It's such an open-ended question, right?
It is, because it's so many factors that goes into what America is. Right. Its foundation is thievery.
Right. That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true.
Thievery.
Right. Yes.
And thievery, manipulation, and the need to conquer.
Yes.
That is what America,
and maintain that power. Yeah. And sometimes even when we're doing something right, it's like, even if it's right, like, okay, let's say protect Taiwan or protect Ukraine. But if we do it in a heavy-handed way, where it also kills a lot of other people, or creates another mess, and it's like, and then we're not even addressing the historical sins that we committed.
We're not.
No, and I think that, I wonder, I do think sometimes like America, part of it is Puritanism. Yeah. And like the biggest problem with Puritans, in my viewpoint, is they didn't want to acknowledge when they committed something wrong. No. They did a sin, they didn't want to talk about it. Yeah. It was the other people. And I think that also goes back to, why is it permissible in our country to bully so much? Yeah. Because it's like you're bullying the other person. Yeah. You're still saying you're great. Yeah. But you don't want to look at yourself in the mirror and see all the horrible things that you've done. Yeah. And it's like, people need to do that, and like, it's not okay. Yeah. No. We need to change that, and we need some kind of recognition of the history and past and to move forward. I think there's only way for. Do you think that's the only way for healing?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that as far as where America's heading, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see the healing. Do you see the healing happening?
When you make it a crime to be homeless,
That's ridiculous.
I'm looking at you sideways. Whether when you talk about America being,
it could be any of us,
people,
right? It could be any of us, right?
It could be any. It's a crime to be homeless.
Right. That's really ridiculous. And it's a crime to be. If we're talking about also the immigrants, at the
Yeah.
border who are looking for asylum.
Yeah.
And somebody told me, I said a controversial
Yeah.
thing. And like, I don't care. They can put it out there on the web.
Yeah.
But I said, like, they were talking about Elon Musk saying to all these people they shouldn't be allowed in here to get asylum. But he was an immigrant who came here, who paid his way in. He bought his way in. But these people who are coming, they're escaping political persecution, and they're trying to go and get a job. Now, I do say, like, if those people, if they commit a crime or they do something bad, deport them.
Yeah.
But give them a chance to have the American dream. I'm American, you're American.
Yeah.
I do believe that's one thing, it might be generational.
Yeah.
You might not believe that exists anymore. But I still believe, even though it wasn't around in my time, but we still got to fight for it somehow. That everybody deserves a shot at the American dream.
Yeah.
If they work hard for it.
Yeah. I just think people deserve a chance to just like do something for themselves. Just
if they want to do something. I don't care where you started from. And okay, yes, Elon Musk was talented or whatever to do whatever he did, but he also had a lot of opportunities that others weren't born with.
But
and
he's rich now, so that's not his problem anymore. So
why pick on those people that are like trying to get that? And that's what's happening in our country. Pick on people from whatever.
Yeah, because I think, and we talked about this before in class, that people at the top don't want the people at the bottom to rise, because there has to be people at the bottom, for the people at the top to operate.
Oh, that's true.
And also, if everyone was at the top, then what would be so important about being at the top? There wouldn't be.
Oh, right, that's true.
There wouldn't be anything special about being at the top.
That's true.
The point of being a million,
But don't you think there should be at least something like, middle class. There should be some opportunity. That to me was the American dream. Like, I don't care what you are, wherever you came from, whatever you believe. You can achieve it. You can have that house. You can have that lawn, that thing but you work hard for it. You try to get it. You try to earn it. Okay.
That's what it should be.
Should be allowed, right?
But going back to what America's foundation is,
greed.
Also,
the other thing,
it needs to have
the bad side.
It doesn't matter how far on top you are. You need to people need to be all the way at the bottom. You can't let them rise.
Can't let them rise.
Or else what's so special about you?
Exactly. Yeah, that is true. That's really problematic.
My thing is why? Sure, it needs to change, but they're not going to change it.
No.
Why would they want it? Why would they want it to?
Exactly, because they're benefiting from it.
Forget about it. They're benefiting so much from it.
Yes, that's really, really ridiculous.
Especially from taxes.
Yes.
They
all these tax cuts.
The prison system alone brings in over 70 million.
Right.
I think over from the prison system alone, and now from taxes, just from this past year, it was some over what a trillion.
Oh, I know.
Over $1 trillion in taxes.
I know, and they don't even provide that much. I know when you're in prison, maybe you shouldn't get all the education, but I did teach in the prison before, and it's just there's only few and far between who are able to get any education. And I just feel like then you're setting people up for recidivism. It's just going to happen again. People are going to go back again. And then some people, then they don't have the opportunities when they get out. And so it's a cycle. And I do agree with you. It's repeating itself, and it's repeating. That's really. And when as you get older, you just feel like this is a bad movie. I would have changed this a long time ago. That's how I feel.
Exactly.
Why do I wake up and see the same thing again? Why do I have to see students who are facing the same kind of world? Why aren't we going beyond that? And that's as a psychology student. What are your plans for the future? I was interested in that.
Because I'm a psychology major, but I want to be a lawyer.
Okay.
So I want to be a criminal defense lawyer.
Okay.
So I want to make sure everybody gets a fair shake.
Oh, good.
Because
would you be so? Would you still stay on the part where you would help people who are less like the underserved?
Yeah, of course. Because people deserve representation to defend themselves, especially if they feel like they didn't do anything, and the process is already long.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Especially because I had to do jury duty.
Oh, okay, yes.
Like last year.
What did you think of it when you saw it? Isn't it weird?
It is weird.
I was called for it, but I wasn't selected. But when I saw those two, when I started listening to the lawyers arguing back and forth, I felt like this sounds surreal. They're both lying. They're both lying. They're getting paid to tell lies.
Right.
I'm getting told to listen to two sets of lies.
Right.
And like, how can I make the truth from two sets of lies?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
You know, but maybe there's some truth on both sides. But I think a lot of times it's like, it's almost like there's got to be some lies on either side.
Well, yeah, it has to be in order to make your client
look good.
And
fight the case.
Yeah.
You're not going to talk about of course.
because a lot of people whether it's speeding, whether it's a hit and run or a suit or a lawsuit, people like sometimes the people cannot handle the punishment for the crime if they did do it.
Right.
So and I think like
especially when it's working class people.
Yeah,
right?
especially when it's working class. Yeah,
definitely.
And so people need proper representation and not like those like
court-appointed lawyers.
Yeah, court-appointed lawyers.
I think that's what it is. I'm not in the legal system, but I think that's what it is.
Because
right?
they don't care.
No,
they don't care.
That's right.
They're only there because they're obligated to by the amendment because you are legally appointed. I forgot what it's called, but
right. They're forced to do it, and it's like they're not getting paid that much, and so it's like creating a second tier class of lawyers that don't have the same benefits. And in a capitalist society, sometimes you often also think about the benefits because you want to have your house, your car, your things, right? And that is part of life. But you think so this is a question also somebody from Spain was talking about, and I really liked what she was saying. She's more left wing or whatever, but she said, I really believe in a state that is also going to it really, in Spanish you say the welfare state, but now they don't like that. That's gotten a really bad rap in the United States, especially on the conservative side. But I do feel like creating a more equitable society. When we talk about diversity and inclusion is one part, but also creating a more equitable society, where the economic inequalities, right? The inequalities are so great, right? Especially in America now. And then also America is I think you brought this up, the cruelty. There's a kind of cruelty here. And I do think our country, maybe our country needs to face that. I mean, because I feel like we're losing some of our human bonds with each other. Do you think that that's true?
Yeah, definitely. Because especially after COVID, because
oh, that's a good point. So do you think COVID? How did that affect you?
Well,
or in your generation?
Yeah, I can speak for me, especially in high school, because at the time, like I told you earlier, of my grades, I was relying on my athletic ability. I didn't really care. Like as long as I passed, I was good, and I was barely doing that.
Right.
And
so, how do you see that now? How do you feel how have you changed now? How is that changing now? I mean,
I can compared to back then, I can regulate my emotions a lot better. I can handle things a lot better.
And you feel like you can also explore your full potential as a human being. I'm talking about intellectually. Because often athletes are very smart,
Yeah.
but people might not always encourage an athlete,
no,
or the setting might not.
Because football,
Right.
you gotta understand, like since 9 years old,
Mm-hmm.
football is that's like
That was your life. Yeah, that's true. So you didn't have time for
you watch it
other
on
things.
TV, you watch it on.
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
Like that's it.
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
And especially for D1 athletes, is
Yeah.
completely.
And so you're on the team here, or are you on the team?
No, I'm not. Because after COVID, I was one of the athletes I just didn't bounce back from it.
Okay.
Like during COVID, I looked up and my GPA was like a 2.3.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. Now football's gone because
You know what? That's pretty smart in a lot of ways. I think that's really intelligent.
Yeah.
Like to process that, because I do feel like education plays such a role in our lives.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, a lot of times when you're going through college, you don't realize it until after.
Yeah.
And once you go out into the workforce, you're like, when you're in college, some people.
Yeah.
I'm generalizing.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. Okay. But going out on a limb here and
Yeah.
just say, like, it's human nature sometimes. Like, when you have a certain privilege, you don't realize you have the privilege until after.
Right.
When you leave and
Yeah.
you go into the workforce.
Yeah.
And you're like, when you're younger, you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come home from work and I'm just gonna study everything online and I'll just know everything, and then I'll be like a super influencer and I'll do all this, this dramatic, this like thing. I'm just gonna make money online and I'm gonna be a millionaire really quickly.
That is very rare for a lot of people.
It's rare, and then even if it does happen to you, like if you don't get an education, it's like if you're doing the influencing thing and you're making money from that, you're gonna get addicted to that.
Yeah.
But you're not getting the education.
No.
So you might be getting the money, but you're not getting the education, and you're missing something. I do believe like some people are missing something upstairs.
Yeah. I also think that that especially for influencers, because the point of at least in my view, the point of going to college is to get the degree so you can get the job, so you can get the money.
Right. Yes. Of course. Yeah.
So if you're already getting the money from influencing, then of course they're not gonna get educated. That the main goal is.
But then they're missing the other part is some skills, like also life skills. And some other things that go on that get involved in life that sometimes you miss. I don't know if it's a socialization process or other things. Yeah, that people can't miss. Yeah,
they can't depending on what your content is.
Yeah, right.
Of
course, the content.
Yeah, of course the content because whether it's like going out doing Q&As.
Yeah, that's true.
Doing like a 20 versus 1. That's all socialization.
Right, that's socialization
just on the
too.
Camera. But
That's
if you're
true.
doing like gaming.
Right.
But even with games, you're not socializing with other people, but you still have to entertain the audience.
Oh yeah.
So I think
you're just not going through the whole educational process
the whole educational
of socialization.
Process. Yeah, but you're
missing that.
Yeah,
so I mean, you miss one point, and that's why sometimes I think like high-level athletes too, and a lot of people who have gone through a lot of different things where they had to do one kind of thing, whether it was one thing they sometimes often grow sick of it, and then they want to have like an education or more like well-rounded because they weren't able to see that because they had tunnel vision because they were successful at that one thing.
Right.
And they were forced all the time to do that, but then they got a little bored and like frustrated because they're human beings too. Like you have to do something 24/7, and you become a slave to it, which sometimes happens in work.
Yeah, and I think that it's like when you devote your life to something, it's because I do that sometimes. Like
you get really involved in it.
Yeah, or at least now, because before I came here, I didn't know.
Right.
Because I was kind of just floating, like going with the flow because I didn't have football.
Right.
So
so how did you make that transition? That's what I wanted to say. Psychologically, was that hard for you?
Yes, it definitely was because like me, I'm goal minded.
Right.
So what that means is I need something to reach. So with football, it was it'll get recruited, or it'll be the best on my team, then being the best in the state. Like it was like I wanted to just I want to get recruited, go D1, then prove myself at D1, then
that's really good. Well, that's a really good set of life skills. But then when you switch from football to something else, but then somehow you got to take all that passion that you have and devote it to a kind of goal and set the goals. So I think that's really smart. But then it's make those long-term goals. Because everybody has other goals. So you got to figure out what yours are.
I recently found my passion, which is law. And I recently had a talk with my criminal justice professor, and I don't know what it was, because like when my mother used to lecture me in high school, it was just like because I thought like I was doing what I needed to do. I thought her just continuing to repeat the same thing over and over. I thought it was just because she didn't have any faith in me, because what she was saying didn't line up with the results, because I was getting the results, but but every time, regardless of the results, it was always something. Kind of like
sometimes you need to shake things up in life. Do you ever believe that? That you sometimes just need to shake things up. And sometimes I believe really it also happens in unexpected ways. And you got to be prepared for that.
Definitely.
So it's pretty crazy.
So
I say that from my experience, never knowing. But but I think at the same time having those goals and setting those goals, that's really good. And then also setting the goals to change some things in our world where there's inequalities in terms of the law and things like that. I don't know if you followed, I don't know if you did or not, but did you follow the Supreme Court thing yesterday or not?
I heard about it. I didn't follow it.
I followed it a little. It was hard to follow, but one thing they were arguing about whether the president is an officer, or whether he, but I think executing in office means that in those old days, it means that he was an officer. So I was feeling how, and even liberal justices couldn't figure that out, and I started feeling we have a serious problem. I mean, even the person who's arguing that states should make the argument, he should have focused also on a civil rights issue, which is there were people who were hurt during that insurrection, and if it's not going to be decided federally, people should have the right to be able to decide it on a state level. And there's nothing in the Constitution that says it's not, because electors are whatever. But I think the Supreme Court is going to rule against this whole thing, because they're going to argue that it should have been decided on a federal level, which is not yet. But because there's an insurrection clause, which says that if you participate in an insurrection, you should not be president. But Trump's lawyer is making the ridiculous argument that you got participating in an insurrection that he didn't. First of all, he's saying it's not an insurrection, but it was. Why was it called Stop the Steal? Why was why did he tell people to stop the steal? And why did they go there? And then I feel like we're headed in a very dangerous direction, unless maybe if Trump gets elected, maybe there won't be a big protest. But I even also think if he gets elected, there might be a big protest. And I'm not supporting him getting elected. I'm just saying what's going to happen if Biden. Let's say Biden wins by, we all know that Biden has his set of issues, but I mean, if people start thinking, okay, I'm not going to get the, lesser, I'll choose the lesser of two evils, so I'm not going to choose the greater of two evils.
Exactly.
So maybe if Biden wins, but then we might be in a situation where there's going to be an insurrection again. And if there's no legal punishment for the person who instigated it, then I think we're in great territory. What do you think about even, do you feel like lawyers also working their way up to higher courts like the Supreme Court? Do you think that's also important?
It is. Well, I think because the Supreme Court, it's not it's not as tricky as people seem, because there needs to be an age limit.
Yeah, there should be.
Number one. Because there's no reason why 80-year-olds need to be on the Supreme Court.
I agree with you.
No reason.
No reason.
No reason at all.
Yeah, it's totally it's absurd.
It's not. There's no reason at all. And I think if you keep the older generation in those same seats of power, then it leaves no room for new perspectives. For new perspectives to form, because the perspective has been the same for the last 80 years.
Exactly, I agree with that. And that's really ridiculous.
Like, you can't expect change when the people who are sitting in these seats of power aren't changing at all.
Exactly, I agree with you totally. I agree with you totally.
And they're going to stay there because they have the power.
Yes,
why would they want to give that up? That's all they know.
Right, that's such a good point.
But
that is such a good point.
Force
that's like when Biden also, Biden and Trump, both greedy older men. I mean, I hate to say it because they should let go. Like Kamala, I was saying that in class at one point. I said, I really feel like it's time for Biden to say, okay, look, I had my time, but I'm forgetting things now. I can't remember the names of states and things like countries. I'm getting foreign leaders mixed up. Yeah. It's time for Kamala Harris.
But power is addicting.
Yes.
And also people would much rather, and this is kind of gonna be like this is probably not gonna go over well, but people would much rather see Biden as president rather than Kamala Harris for obvious reasons.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
For obvious
because
reasons.
of her ethnicity and her background, being a black woman and an Indian woman mixed together. And married to a white man, and then mixed with a lot of different things.
It would be extremely problematic. Not even because, and it's not even because not even because I think that she will be a better president than Biden or Trump. Because
what do you think? What happened to her? Like I don't know. I'm not saying that she didn't do anything, but I'm like, my wife and I, we saw her speaking, and then we were like, okay, like I think this is one of the first times she spoke, and she's been vice president for almost 4 years now, and then at that time it was the beginning of the year or something. I was like, where was she during all these other times when she? I think they probably silenced her.
Probably. But there's a lot. There's also like, as much as I loathe Republican logic, there have been a lot of things that has happened under Biden and Kamala's watch that a lot of people aren't addressing, because of the fear of the Republican Party getting into that spot again.
That is true.
Which I understand that, but
what is Biden doing? It's like we can list all the accomplishments. I see, even with the war in Ukraine, which he supposedly supports. I mean, even with the war in Ukraine, it's like you see those people suffering over there. He's he's helping them, but I mean, it's like, you're not helping them that much.
Right.
I mean, like, imagine if you're over there in the war and bombs are dropping right there, and they're like, we'll send the stuff to you soon. Now, the Republicans are responsible for holding some of that up. But could he do some executive order or something? And then when he is saying with the border, I'm going to be really hard on all those people applying for asylum. I want to ask you the question, as a person who's going into law. Like, do those people, the Geneva Convention says that those people have the right to apply for asylum. There's nothing that says that they have the right to be put into a prison or they have the right to be denied asylum. Deny asylum. That's what he's saying. He's saying build a wall, send them back across the border. And a lot of them are across the border, and then they're dying. And they're little kids. They're family members, they have nothing and stuff like that. They're coming from different countries, and there's all these different kinds of ethnic, racist stereotypes and things about them as the dangerous wave. But I mean, it brings up a lot of questions. I mean, I'm not saying, like, look, having these people come in is a total mess.
Yeah.
But I mean, even the Republicans,
Yeah.
what I was surprised, they're still talking about 2,000 or 3,000 immigrants coming in
Yeah.
illegally and applying for asylum.
Yeah.
They're talking about, I'm talking about the Republicans.
Yeah.
A lot of them are talking about 4,000 being a problem, but not 2,000 a day. So, but then they're trying to also have their cake and eat it too and say
Yeah.
these people are bad people, but they want them to come in too. And I felt that's very disingenuous because it's an election year, and I feel like Biden is playing the same game.
Yeah.
Do you feel he is?
Yes. Yes, and that's the thing that people aren't addressing. It's the same thing.
Right, it's the same
like,
thing.
Democrat,
I agree with
Republican,
you.
it doesn't matter, and
Right.
that's why
I feel like it almost doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's why I think like a lot of people are zoning out of politics, and even the only exception I would consider like an exception was 2020 because
Of the insurrection.
because so many people were upset with Trump. That even some Republicans were like, yeah, we can't do Trump anymore. And just voted for
But
Biden.
they only said that for a little while, and then after it seemed like Biden agreed with them.
Yeah.
That it wasn't a big deal anymore.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the only people who really show, I mean, okay, I'm being kind of biased,
Yeah.
but like those police officers,
Yeah.
they really got
Yeah.
hurt,
Yeah.
they were abused,
Yeah.
and it was okay with the people in Congress,
Yeah.
whether they were Republican or Democrat, because I'm not giving the Democrats a pass,
Yeah.
because they did this commission that did nothing,
Yeah.
and then they claimed that had some legal standing, but it had no legal standing, and then now we have a lot of people who are afraid to make any decisions
Yeah.
because Trump, they waited until
Yeah.
this moment to do all these things. Now the Supreme Court is in the Republicans' hands,
Yeah.
so I mean you have to acknowledge that reality.
Yeah.
So, but I still feel like they could have made a more forceful argument. They dilly-dally for all this time, and then what have they really done for the black community, for example?
They haven't, which is
Okay.
what.
What has Kamala Harris done? And even if so, she becomes, and that goes back to another thing. Like a lot of America is also about identity politics.
Yeah.
We get a black man in there, but you know, a black woman,
Yeah.
a black man, an Indian man, a gay man, a white man, mixed man with all different kinds of ethnicities, or Hispanic or Chinese or any ethnicity, right? And a lot of it is the genetic components of the person,
Yeah.
but what also matters, that does matter,
Yeah.
okay, because that's a historic first and
Right.
things like that.
Exactly.
For example, getting a black woman into
Yeah.
office. But it also matters what they believe in,
Yeah.
right? Does
Exactly.
it?
Yes. Of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, and I also wonder, like, as a person who's getting older, I have a lot of faith in the younger generation. I think we should get more people in the younger generation into politics, but we
Yeah.
also shouldn't be naive either,
Right.
where we get certain people who are of the younger generation where we only have one-dimensional.
Yeah.
We need a healthy diversity of viewpoints on it.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
Yeah, but definitely the younger generation is needed because it seems like neither side is really doing much.
And I think we need to really. I think like the independent party, even though that is an option, nobody really pays attention to it.
No, and I was thinking of
because-
doing voting something like
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
independent
independent.
or green.
Green,
something green.
But nobody really pays attention
No.
to it because even
My mother was telling me like, oh yeah, that's throwing away vote. And
Yeah.
I've had some colleagues tell me that.
Yeah, but
you're
they're
like you're gonna
really-
throw away a vote so
Yeah.
Trump can get elected, and then. But I mean,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but then again, it's just like why do we have to have so many like poor alternatives, and that's problematic. And what do you think about the fact of people going into professions just to make the money, like you were talking about,
Yeah.
career politicians, career lawyers,
Yeah.
like lawyers who really don't care, they're going to go to the client that gets
Yeah.
the most money,
Exactly.
and go on there's a lot of people like that, career politicians, even young ones,
Yeah.
they're like, I'm going to go where the money is,
Yeah.
like, I don't really care what I'm saying,
Yeah.
like, you know, I think some of these politicians, when they say
Yeah.
like, Nikki Haley was saying like, oh, I don't think America was ever a racist country. What do you think about that? What do you think about that?
Don't.
Oh my God.
Wow, I forgot about that. Wow.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Um,
Isn't that crazy? Oh my God, yeah.
I don't even like that. That's one of the things where I don't even know what to say.
No.
Because I don't have to say anything.
No, exactly. Because it's so ridiculous. But the fact that anybody would expect you to have to say something is ridiculous. I think that's the most ridiculous thing, right? Like, somebody actually expects you to say something like, what in the world? And why are we even... It's like bad. It's just such a bad repeat, and it's like it's like going on and on again, and it is such a nightmare. And sometimes we wake up in the morning, and you feel like, okay, I wish that would change, but it's just that it's going to be like probably it's going to be some gradual change. But I definitely think it should be happening faster. I really do, and then I also feel like. I think some young people are afraid of going into politics.
Yeah, also because
you could get killed.
And
also, it's an extreme comment from me, but do you feel like that's a reality?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of
people, want to say the truth.
And
if you want to toe the line,
and they dig up, and once you get into politics, you're past. No matter what it is, no matter what age,
they're gonna trash you.
No matter what age,
and
when I say no matter what age, I mean no matter what age. Like anything you did from what you were born into.
Yeah, exactly.
And a lot of people, and
who would want to go into that?
It's almost like especially, and that's why now I want to be rich, not famous, because I just think that.
That's true. Like the famous people have a lot of problems.
Yeah,
they're like running away from America.
Yeah, because even as crazy as people paint Kanye out to seem,
he might be just doing a lot of those things for money too. But he's also probably creative, but also for money. Maybe.
But if a TMZ reporter comes up to you asking you if your wife has free will, what's up with you? Really? Anybody else would react the same way.
Right. I think sometimes he also just says something to be controversial, right? But then it's like, but that's not just him. That's also the politicians. Right. So a lot of, I think like Biden is maybe one of the exceptions there. I think sometimes he's just falling asleep on the clock, but I think otherwise he's falling asleep on the clock. But I don't think sometimes I think Biden wants to be really. I don't know. That's my perception. I think he does care sometimes, but I think like he doesn't know how to, and he's been absent. So I think when you've been absent. You can't earn the trust of people. Because it seems like you're distant. And that distance has been repeated from a long period of time from both sides, both parties, in this kind of sense of entitlement, in this sense of greatness from each side. And I think they play that up, the greatness of all these people. And then the other people who could be something, they play them down, but I really feel like because more investors have put in more money. And he brings up a lot of questions, like you said, why would somebody stop doing that if they're still making money from it? And can you say anything about what about your education here and what you're learning and everything?
I'm learning a lot actually. Time management, time management, and being accountable. And I know that word is being used a lot for situations that don't really that are out of people's control. But accountability.
Do you feel like I don't agree with that all the time? Do you feel like I'm talking about the argument everything's out of my control? And even for myself as a teacher, who am I to say what's out of my control? Who do I really know who I'm talking to? Right. Who will you be in 10 years from now? You would be president of the United States.
I think people have a way of removing autonomy.
Yes, they do.
In certain shit. Like for example, the way we talk about social media, it's like people use social media as if it's a separate entity.
But it's not.
People social media exists, but people we use it.
Social media.
We are the social media.
Yes,
exactly.
And we engage and we indulge in the sensationalism, and then the the social media, the websites, they promote it,
Yes,
right?
and-
Because that's
yes.
that's what's gonna, and so that's why they're going back to Trump and Biden a lot of times instead of the American people,
Yeah.
the American people like
Yeah.
you and me,
Yeah.
and that's why I feel like we're the people in the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And we're not even being trained to become global citizens,
Yeah.
and yet your words make an impact to people all around the world.
Yeah.
Like there are people
Yeah.
in different countries.
Yeah.
I have a lot of people in different countries listening to my podcast. Now,
Yeah.
granted, I don't have that many views.
Yeah.
But let's say if it grows bigger,
Yeah.
right? Your views are going to suddenly have an outsized
Yeah.
thing. So, but and of course we're human beings. We can't think of
Yeah,
everything. Like,
exactly.
what are we going
Right.
to try to say? The implications of what we have to say,
Right.
and we may not be able to research everything. This is spontaneous. It's a conversation.
Yeah.
But I really think that this is important because I think we need more open
Yeah.
conversations.
We just need, and people need to be honest.
Yes.
And just more, just
Definitely.
be honest.
Yeah.
Because-
What is the world really like? Let's start from right here,
Yeah.
right where we are.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of like what we should be, what is on TV,
Yeah.
what is on social media,
Yeah.
our fake face.
Yeah.
So I think that that's really
Yeah, we
important.
need to like we need to start where what it is now,
Right.
and then have a conversation about what we want it to be,
Right.
and then like or identify the problem, and
Right.
then work toward a solution, and
Right.
not try to find one enemy,
Right.
or not try because.
That's what made me a little
Yeah,
sad
like-
yesterday when Biden had his problem. Like he made a mistake with his memory, and he's been kind of
Yeah.
destroyed with the person saying he's an
Yeah.
elderly old man who has poor memory,
Yeah.
who's not qualified. And then he defended himself, but then he made another mistake.
Yeah.
And then talking about his son, who
Yeah.
died of brain cancer.
Yeah.
But it's really, politics has become a blood sport.
Yeah.
Like where it has been like name calling and destroying.
Yeah.
And even you see that on the social media with influencers like trying to destroy the other influencer
Right.
and
Yeah.
saying trash about the other person.
and if you want to, like, it depends on the situation also, because sometimes the other person might be completely in the wrong.
Yes, that's
right?
true.
So, but
And
also,
that's true. And people can be completely in the wrong, but when you
Yeah.
want to, but also you don't want to totally destroy people's lives either. But on the other hand, like there are times when the person is completely in the wrong.
but just not.
And
and
it was,
that's
I
where-
felt like that was wrong, just
Yeah.
going after his dead son
Yeah,
and that kind of
yeah,
thing. That
and
was
that-
like, I could see where he is he is an older man, but he's
Yeah.
also a human being.
Yeah.
So I felt like,
Yeah.
I felt a little cutting him a little slack right there, even
Yeah.
though I don't support everything
Yeah.
he represents.
And I think the way we've dehumanized the way we communicate
Yeah.
to each other, I think that's also it's a huge problem, especially with the generation or with my generation and the generation coming up.
And that's problematic because
Yeah.
it's like it's becoming more like our America sometimes has become more segregated, more divided, and
Yeah.
more and all
Yeah.
over all different
Yeah.
kinds of things. Not even also by political party or different things
Yeah.
or what people like. I mean, social media did that. Like
Yeah.
I like people who like me, who are like me too.
Yeah.
Sometimes, right? And so it's like subliminally
Yeah,
making
but-
us do that, and
Yeah.
I feel like we'd have to make a conscious effort to even get out of that.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
we all are human beings, and it's like we can learn from each other on this planet.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think America doesn't know unity because
No.
it's never known unity.
That's true. It's never known.
It's always been divided, whether
Yeah,
it's
it's
been
absolutely
race, whether
true.
it's been gender,
Yes,
whether
that's
it's been politically, class.
Right.
It's always been some type of divide. That's what makes America America.
Yes, it's kind of like a country where people got together
Yeah.
to make money,
Yeah.
and where there's also exploitation as well.
Yeah.
And let's just call it what
Yeah,
it is, and
absolutely.
it happened, and it's still happening today.
Yeah.
But you think that there's now you were talking about your generation though.
Yeah.
I was more. I'm interested in like was that also like comment also about shortcomings or also advantages? I mean, obviously there's advantages.
Both, because
Both.
I think we I think my generation, as much as much flack as we get for from the older generation for maybe quote unquote not working as hard.
Oh, some people say that, yeah.
Because
but maybe you're enjoying life more, and maybe that's necessary.
We keep like the human we keep the human element to us, we keep our most of us we keep our humanity.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know?
Yeah, and I think the older generation failed that. Especially I'm talking about the really older generation, like my dad's generation. And they didn't know any better. They
didn't.
It's just because for them work was everything. Now, but we talked about that in our class, how that can happen with the younger generation. Because once you get involved in your career, and it's in work, what I find in America, which I don't like, this is my big criticism, and I'm American, but coming back here, there's not a work-life balance in this country, and it's especially if you go into professional life, being a teacher, they want you to work and work and work, and when you get home, they want you to work, and then students want you to work at home. So pretty soon, if you want to be the best teacher, you're not going to have a life outside of everything, and I feel like America is somewhat built on that. If you're going to really lift yourself up, you got to be exceptional in your job, and it's created that way that you have so much focus on that, and I feel but that's destroyed families too. That's caused a lot of kids don't get to see their parents, and even with the parents are making more money, right? But then working class people, they're not making enough money, so. But there's a different set of problems. Yeah. But then some of the professionals, they're making the monny, but they're not talking to their kids.
Yeah, because my dad worked a lot when I was coming up. So my mother, she would be the one to pick me up from basketball practice, from football practice, from daycare, from after school. So I formed way more of a stronger relationship with my mom than I did my dad, and I think that also played a part in family dynamics also because
and I had that same kind of dynamic with my dad, so I understand totally. Of course, my dad passed away, but then it's when I feel when he was passing away and everything, it's just all that stuff went through my head, and I cried for him, but it's I could feel him holding his hand, and he's such a hard-working man. I would think that meant the world to him to try to do everything, but he had communication problems even as an English professor and successful. You would think he's talking about expression, but a lot of that generation, or the really older generation, and even my generation, still like that too. You just fall into that in America. I think it's work becomes something that defines you, and then you set that goal and that objective. But then the society is not putting the emphasis also on family. And you have to set that as a goal for yourself. I feel like the Obamas did a really good job with that, because I think Barack Obama knew that he came from a dysfunctional family. So he was okay, he processed that, and so he's with Michelle Obama, and then Sasha and Malia. I think he thought, okay, I need to make sure I don't fall into that trap. I pay attention to my kids because they need me growing up. But it's easy to lose contact with that. And what do you think about work-life balance?
I definitely think it's important, but it's important when you have your life straight.
That's true. You first got to get your life straight.
You first got to get in. Once you're if you're working up, and once you get to a pretty comfortable level within that field, then you start to prioritize.
But be careful, be careful with it. Just this is my own advice to you. And as far as it goes, whatever it's worth. But be careful because you will always have the opportunity to go more. Right? But your family is not always. Right? You gotta be there. So I think that sometimes so you gotta I guess you got to try to do what you can
Yeah.
to be everything you can.
Right, yeah.
And that's really crazy. It's really hard to do that
Yeah.
sometimes. It's really hard. My wife is working in the high school, and I'm working here. And ever since she started working in the high school, she's got every million things to do. I got a million things to do.
Yeah.
We got to make time for our relationship,
Yeah.
for the pets that we have. We don't
Right,
have kids,
yeah.
but that's still something, you know?
Right.
You got to make time for each other, and you got to make time for yourself.
Right.
Yeah, so I think that's also important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think this is basically it. Like,
Okay.
thanks a lot.
Of course, man.
You know, if you want to come back and do it again
Yeah.
too, you know, if you have other topics, you know, that
Yeah.
you would like to talk about,
Okay.
that would be great.
Okay,
But
yeah.
you know, I really enjoyed this. I
Yeah,
learned
I
a lot
enjoyed it
from
too,
it.
man.
And thank you for coming
No
on this
problem.
podcast.
Thank you for having
And
me.
you have a good weekend.
All right, you too.
Yeah, it was really a pleasure talking to
Pleasure
you.
talking to you too.
Okay, take care.
All right, you too.
Yeah, it's really nice to talk to you and find out more
Yeah.
about your story and your struggles and your
Yeah.
dreams and your
Yes, sir.
aspirations.
Yes.
Yeah, it's inspiring.
Thank
Okay, thanks a lot.
No
Okay,
problem.
take care.
All right.
Bye bye.